Welcome back, you guys. This is another episode of After the Cookout. Today, I'm Patrick. Let's introduce ourselves. Let's do that again.
All right.
We'll do another episode of After the Cookout. And then we'll introduce ourselves.
Start just point to me when you want me to introduce.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is, welcome back. God, flip. Okay.
You're good. That's going to be the beginning now. That's going to be the
All right.
part open.
Gosh.
Go ahead.
Please.
We're going to keep recording.
Okay. Welcome back, guys. This is another episode of After the Cookout. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Marvin.
And today we're going to talk about mental health. And particularly mental health in kind of like in the aspect of being a man and how men tend to not be willing to ask for help or too prideful to ask for help and not realizing that's more detrimental than dealing with it by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and talking about it from our perspective, me and Pat were talking earlier, and how we've seen a lot of people address mental health from like the media that are, people with well-means. Not to say that people that got money ain't really got mental health issues.
Yeah,
we've seen that's not true a lot lately, but
right.
I'm not going to talk about that. But just seeing it from our perspective as like, working 40-hour jobs a week that are normal jobs. Pat's a teacher. I work for a drug treatment center and serve as a missionary also. And so, like I remember hearing Chris Rock talk about how often he goes to therapy. I think it was like 3 to 4 times a week or more. I think it was a lot. It was like a lot, like almost to a point where you thought he was lying. And so seeing that he has the capability to do that and we don't, even if I had the time, if there was another 5 hours in a day, I still wouldn't have the means to go to therapy. Right. I don't know if my insurance covers it like that. And so just talking about it from our perspective on, where do you get help? Where you don't have the means to just be in therapy 5 days a week or once a week for some people,
really,
depending on what shift you work. So it's just coming from our perspective of us being young men. I was going to say in our 20s, but I just turned 30.
I'm 32.
Oh, yeah. So we're not 20 no more, but we're young fathers, and me being the youngest. And just coming from our perspective and on what it looks like and what we've observed in the family and things like that. So I'll let Pat take it from there.
Well, yeah, so what kind of stirred this subject or kind of piqued my interest in this subject was a recent interview of Michael Beasley, a professional basketball player who in the media, it was kind of portrayed that he was a drug addict, addicted to drugs, and he was kind of, in a way, they portrayed him as like his own worst enemy. He hurt himself more so, and it was really more so a person who needed help wasn't getting help. He participated probably in some things that were self-harming, but he participated in those things because his everyday life was far worse than any of the self-harming things that he was doing. And so in that interview, he was saying he's been looking for good people his whole life, and then looking for good people to talk to his whole life and just kind of searching for him. And then he also said in our interview, he said, how many times I got to swallow my pride as a man to ask for help before somebody helps?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of eye-opening to me because I think I know there's been times in my life, particularly, like especially now, I'm a new teacher. I went into a transition to teaching program, and I think one of my biggest weaknesses was not asking for help. I just felt like asking for help was me showing them that I couldn't do my job.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, when he said, I related to that. So, like, how many times I got to swallow my pride? Like, there were times when I asked for help. It was often, like, either too late or to a point where it already seemed like I didn't know what I was doing because I was so stubborn and trying to ask for help. So, just kind of understanding that, like, mindset of a man, it's almost, after seeing that, it made me realize it hurts me more not to ask for help
Mm-hmm.
than it does to actually ask for help. Like, in my mind, it's a sign of weakness, they seem like, but in reality, people are more willing to help than we realize. But it's hard for us to be like, I need your help on this. I'm not sure. I'm not good at this, or I'm not understanding what I'm supposed to do. Because it just makes that, especially in the Black community,
Yeah, and when I watched the interview, at first as I watched, like you said, like you talk about how the media portrayed him, and so we were getting like a instead of looking from the outside looking in, we were getting an inside view on what he was actually going through during that time. And I never followed his career. I'll never be one to say that I watch sports that often. You know what I mean? I played football, but I don't watch it, and I'd rather watch something that's funny. So I never been the one to sit down and watch ESPN. So I never knew, what all was going on in that time, and when he played, none of that. I just watched the interview and listening to him talking about how the people that he said were supposed to be helping him were stealing from him.
Right.
Family and stuff like that. And so it's a matter of like when the people that are supposed to help you have hurt you, then it's like, well, why would I ask somebody else for help?
Yeah, who else?
When my the ones that are supposed to be for me are not for me. And so what obligation does that person have to help me when the person that had the obligation didn't help me? And so now I'm out here all alone. And that's what I gathered from that interview, because he just kept on talking about, like, I just be by myself. And it just really, and the interview, they kept on, like, offering him, like, man, you can come to my house, we can chill, we can rent a bouncy house and just play with the kids. And he's just like, bro, I'm done asking for help. Like, I'm just by myself now. And that's what broke my heart watching it, was that he felt that alone, in the world. And I think that's like one of the biggest issues, is when people just feel alone. Like, I work in the helping field with adults, and when someone feels that hopeless, it's hard to bring them back. It takes a really slow approach. It's like trying to catch a fish. You got to be quiet. You got to put the right thing out there to make them want to come in. And so, like, hearing them say that, it was like, and I heard them, and I heard they were sincere in their approach of saying, like, bro, like, come over, like, you ain't got to be by yourself. And his response was like basically he kept saying the same thing, like, I'm by myself. I just be by myself because he's been hurt. He's been hurt so much, and so it's like that quick response, because we were quick to, like, not really analyze a situation. We're more like quick to just give a solution, which I do that all the time. Me and Nicole be getting in arguments when she bring up something, I'm like, well, just do this. Right. And she just be looking like, don't reduce my problems down to that small. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, that makes sense to me.
Right.
And so we're quick to do that. And so here he is, talking about years of abuse and neglect. And they're trying to solve it with just a quick, like, well, come over and hang out. Because that's the way your mind works. And he's like, no, I be by myself. Right. I don't trust nobody no more. And that's the biggest thing, is the trust. Like, how do you get help? Or how do you seek out help when you don't trust nobody anymore? That's a hard piece.
And another thing, like, to touch on that interview, another thing he kept saying was he was just trying to play basketball. Mm-hmm. And they were like, well, you're more than basketball. But in his eyes, he said at the beginning, his whole value, like he said, I realized early on that nobody cares about you unless you play basketball. Mm-hmm. So his value, his life's value was in basketball. And they were trying to tell him it's more than that. But how can he see that when the thing he felt like was his that gave his value was taken from him.
Yeah.
He said they took this away from me. Like I didn't have the option. Like it wasn't my choice to be pushed away from basketball. They took this away from me, and I just want to play basketball. I want to show people my value, my worth, and that was his way, his only way of showing people he meant something to the world. It was sad to see because you realize as he kept saying, I'm just trying to play basketball. I'm trying to play basketball because that's what to him registered as value. And it was crushing because they're trying to say, like, look, we play sports too and we moved on. We have other avenues, we have other things we want to do. But to him, that's all fine and dandy. They all got to play. They all left on their own merit. He didn't get that choice. He didn't get to choose when to leave, and I think it was hard for him to walk away from that. And I really do think they meant well, try to help him, but they missed that. They missed that point of him saying, "I'm just trying to play basketball." It was just him equating that to what he said earlier when he said, "Nobody cares about you unless you play basketball." Like his values.
Yeah, and that's where his identity was. And so, like, how do you change someone's skewed view of identity when they have, I don't know how old he is. He's probably like in his 40s or something.
No, 30s.
30s. So when you have 30 years of evidence of showing you that no one cares about you unless you're playing basketball, because everyone's looking at what you can benefit them. You know what I mean? And they've seen his potential, and they're like, so everybody's using you for years. This is not like, it's not over the weekend. This is for years of abuse or years of misuse, and so he completely enveloped his identity in the game, and that's scary because, like you said, it don't last forever. Even if it wasn't taken away from him, even if he was able to lay it down, how do you? The show's called The Pivot. How do you pivot from that when your whole entire life have seen your value in only one thing, and that goes for black men too. And like not just talking with I forget what his name is again. What's his name?
Michael Beasley.
Michael Beasley, but in black men in general, and I know there's other people out there, but I'm a black man. This is my perspective. Is when our identity and our value has been told to us is this for so long. How do you switch that? I think of the doll experiment. Have you ever heard about that?
No.
So the doll experiment is when they have like all different kids from different.
I know. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, when they look at the doll. Yeah. And so for those that don't know, it's like they had like kids that were from Asian backgrounds, black, white, Mexican, right? And so they have this white doll, black doll, right? And they ask a series of questions. And they did this back in like, I don't know, a long time ago, and then they did it again. Somebody else did it again, some college or something. Did it again in like the early 2000s maybe. And same results, right? They put these dolls in front of these little kids, and they're like, which one's the good doll? They point at the white doll. Which one's the bad doll? They point at the black doll. And so on and so on, all these like positive and negative questions, and the negative responses were always on the black doll. And the part that really got me when first time I seen it, there was like a little black girl at the end, and they were like, which doll is the ugly doll? And she pointed at the black doll, and they said, which doll is the bad doll? She pointed at the black doll. And then they said, now which doll looks like you? And then she pointed at the black doll. And I was just like, come on, man. So that's what society is like pointing.
That's young.
Yeah, they were like 6, 7, 8. And so society is telling you that this is your identity, this is who you are, this is where your value, you have no value, right? And to use a present day example of that, my niece, who my brother is black, obviously, because he's my brother, and his wife is white, and so my niece is mixed, and she grew up in a house with, after my dad passed, so they all lived in the same house. My brother, his wife, his daughter, Jalen, Zach, which is his son, my mom, and my sisters, right? And so she grew up in a house around majority black women, right? That are same color skin as me. And she's lighter skin, obviously, because she's mixed. And so loves my sisters. with like all her heart. Like those, all she want to be around is them. My sisters and my mom. Right, that's her people. Right, not to say that she don't love her parents, but I mean, the kids are with their aunts and their grandma. And so then she starts going to school, right, at a school, and I won't mention the name because I don't want to start no mess. But she goes to school in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? Not even school; it started daycare. It's not even in school yet, daycare. And just from being in daycare for not super long, not like years, just like maybe less than a year, she says a statement. I can't remember exactly how it went, but she said something about not liking Brianna and Micah, which are my sisters, and my mom was like, "Why?" She said, "Because they're dark skinned or they're black." Like, where does that come from? You know what I mean? And that comes from the community, society, trying to paint our picture of who we are and our value, and that's a huge issue. And here we are in Newton, Kansas, where there's not a lot of this.
I had 2 students this year tell me something similar to that. Just, I had one. First of all, just to give you a perspective, I teach interrelated, which is special education, K through first grade. A first grader who is obviously in special ed, and he's sitting down, and this. This is a little off topic for mental health, but this is just to kind of touch on your point. The kid goes, he goes, "Don't touch me." I'm thinking he's talking to another kid, so I'm sitting back like, "Don't touch. I don't like to be touched either. Don't touch him." Like, give him his face. But then one of the kids goes, I'm gonna poke you." Like, he puts his finger, and he's like, "You can touch me. Black people just can't touch me." And I'm like,
"Dang,
who? I didn't touch you." I was like, "When did I touch you?" Like,
yeah.
So apparently my foot had hit his foot under the desk. And so I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I didn't mean to touch you. If I touch you, I apologize. I didn't mean to touch you."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, because black people, like," he didn't say black people are dirty, but he goes on to say, like, "Yeah, black people, white people are smarter than black people. I'm smarter than you." And or something along those lines. And I was like, "Kid, I'm your teacher."
Yeah, I'm thinking you. That mic is going touching that arm. It's going to put a whole bunch of sound on there.
I know, but I'm looking at it. It's spiking, and I know it's hearing me breathe.
Anyway, we can record. I might edit that out. But anyway,
but yeah, no. So that was just me as an adult. Imagine hearing that as a child. I'm securing myself. I know this kid is getting this from some people who aren't educated or who have a systemic or racist perspective. I know that. I'm 30, but my 7-year-old daughter doesn't know that. And when she hears that, she just it tears her down a little bit. Like, "Oh, okay, I'm not as smart because I'm black."
Yeah,
and it's not the truth. Like, that's not the truth. So I definitely see that perspective, especially in the education system, because people tend to, families who are in poor situations tend to gain value by demeaning other people. And so you see it a lot in low income areas. To get their value or to up their value or to make themselves seem better, you see them
degrade
someone else.
But no, yeah. And so, and you talk about like they degrade your value to make theirs seem like it's higher. And so here we are as like black men in America, and I'm not trying to make this like a black podcast, but
black.
Yeah. Sorry, if you don't recognize on the camera, my skin is black, and so that's just my perspective. But yeah, like when society is constantly, throwing darts at your self identity, right, and telling you you're this, you're that, you're not this, you're not that. Even when your home life is the opposite of that. Even when your mom and your dad are like building you up, then you go out into the world or school or whatever, and then they start breaking you down. It's like a game of like trying to overcome that. even with that's why I think those beginning years are really important. You know what I mean, as a child, to build them up so that when they do
Right.
go out into the world, they aren't completely shattered.
That foundation.
Yeah, and so, but I mean, going back to the mental health, and that is because when everything is trying to tear you down, it takes a toll on your mind. It takes a toll on your emotions. It takes a toll on your physical health. You know what I mean? What is it? Toxic stress, where I don't know the full science in it. I'm not even going to act like I do. But when it talks about your cortisol levels supposed to rise and fall, and when your cortisol levels are high, it's because you're in this toxic stress stage where your stress never drops. You know, it's supposed to come up. I mean, it's supposed to be like low in the morning or something. High in the morning and then trickle down as the day goes over, or vice versa. But when you look at, black people, when does our stress come down? You know, I leave the house, I'm worried about if I'm gonna get pulled over. You know what I mean? I go to work, I'm worried about if I'm gonna get my job. Keep my job, and worried about if someone's shooting my ideas down because I'm black, and all these different things that are fears of ours
Right.
that we never get to shake. You know, and so it takes a toll on your mind. It takes a toll on your physical health. You know, when you wonder why high blood pressure and diabetes and stuff are so prevalent in our community, and they'll say, and I'm not going to argue with no doctors and stuff because I'm sure they got science to try to back up what they say. But I'm saying, you know what I mean, that I feel like sometimes they poke at us of like, oh, it's because you guys diet. I'm like,
yeah, I don't know about
like my mama didn't cook fried chicken every night. You know what I mean? We ate Mexican food more than anything. We grew up in California, but it's like we cook regular food. Like it's not soul food every night, and just because of the whole idea that soul food is, high in salt and fried and all this and all that, they make the assumption, well, that's why your diabetes and high blood pressure. I'm like, or maybe it's because y'all try to kill us all the time. You know what I mean? It's like I seen a video of, and I'm not trying to. I hate to even compare us because it was a video about monkeys. Sorry, we're not monkeys, and I'm black. And I'm not saying we're monkeys, but there was a video about a monkey, and it was talking about toxic stress. And so there was a larger, I think it was like chimps or something. There was like a larger chimp in the enclosure with them, and there was a smaller one, right? And they kept checking like their levels of stress and all that kind of stuff. And so the larger one was consistently bullying the other one. Move him out of his area when he was in a certain spot that he always said that he would go sit in a spot and move him out the way. And right. The other one became docile and like subservient to the larger chimp. And so it showed, and then so that I think they introduced some type of like not disease, but like viral infection or something. And so he was more susceptible to the virus because his immune system was weaker because of his stress levels were so high. And so that right there just shows that when you're constantly breaking us down,
right,
why wouldn't we be more susceptible to certain diseases and things like that? It's because of our stress levels is constantly high. When do I get to calm down?
And I talked to my friend, one of my friends in Arizona. He's I would say white, but he's Jewish. But he's right. Obviously, people recognize him as a white male. And so I was talking to him, and we were having this discussion. We were talking about how everybody, when you get to that dark place, that high level of stress, the depression, the anxiety, everybody's in the same place. But for others, it's harder to get out of that place. That's what we were talking about. Like, not even just we're talking about from our perspective as a man, but there's other as a black man, but there's other perspectives as being a woman or being in a low income area. It makes it harder for us to get out of that dark place. And so that hole that you're in. And so some people, we realize money makes the world go round. So when you have those opportunities to go to therapy 4 times a week, it's easier for you. That's your ladder out of that dark place. And then somebody who might be going through the same thing, who don't have that ladder, like now they're just trying to survive. We're trying to survive in this world that is really toxic and trying to tear you down. So that mental health, like being able or us looking at people and offering help sometimes is another, because I think, I mean, they're probably not gonna want it. Michael Beasley didn't want it, but you can't. No, can't be the answer.
It takes more than just, I mean, that initial ask. I think about I think at the mission, right? Like you're talking about, you're trying to survive. When we get a guy that first comes in, and right, we take men. A lot of our guys come straight off the streets. Sometimes out of jail, sometimes out of treatment. We get a decent amount of people that come straight off out of homelessness, right? When they first come, if I sit down with them and he's like, I mean, guys, fresh off the streets, sleeping in tents, whatever, right? Sleeping under bridges, all that, right? Surprisingly, we have that in Newton, right? Small town, we have a lot of it, right? And so here I am, and I come and I'm sitting there, and you've done your application, and now I'm asking you questions, and I sit there and ask you, so what's your goals? Well, my goal is to get a bed and some food. You know what I mean? I'm in survival. When you're in survival mode, you're not thinking about self-actualization and things like that.
Future, your 5-year plan.
Like a 5-year plan. Like, bro, hold on, let's figure out these next 15 minutes. You know what I mean? And so it's hard to even make plans when you're in survival mode. It's almost impossible to make future plans when you're in survival mode, because your bare instincts come out where it's like it's I mean, live or die. It's like I need food, I need shelter, I need all that, right? And so, how do you make a plan to come up when you are in the depths and you're in survival mode, right? It's impossible. And so, that's one of the things I think about all the time. It's like, for Michael Beasley, right? Even though he may have money or whatever, he was still in this mode of like, I mean, it feels like everybody's coming after me. You know what I mean? The media don't let me live. All these different things. And so you switch into this survival mode. So it's like, oh man, come over and hang out with the kids. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not thinking about that right now, right? And so I think about a lot of times where, like you talked about the like how they said that he was doing self-destructive behaviors, right? Which I know from the field that I work in. It's self-medicating. It's like, this makes me feel better. This helps me escape. And so sometimes that's substances. Sometimes that's alcohol. It's like, I don't want to live in this reality, so let me escape it. Or I'm having these thoughts in my head and all these different things, so let me escape it. Let me silence these thoughts or numb this feeling so that I can feel better in this present moment. And that, again, is survival mode. It's not thinking about what this oxy is going to do to me in 20 years or what this alcohol is going to do to my liver. It's not thinking about that. It's like, think about now, because I might not even make it that far. I need to think about now. And
especially, I mean, I want to say there's a study that shows that some people can't even think that far. Like, that comes with maturity. And I know, like, people, I know for men, you don't get that thought process until like 25, I think. And so you're not even thinking about, you can't think that far ahead of like, this could have long-term ramifications. You're just thinking, right now, this makes me feel
better.
So
and so it's like, like I was saying, how do you make a plan to come out of some type of mental health crisis or depression or what, when you are really literally in that survival mode? Like I think about my dad often, right? Because I be doing the same thing, right? And so one of the things that I used to break my heart over my dad before he passed, where I would come downstairs like in the summertime, right, when I'm staying up doing what I want to do. The only thing I got to worry about is football practice at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, chilling, right? And so, I can go back. And whether it be high school or even college, when I came home for the summer and stuff. And I remember so you can see my size. I'm a big dude. There was very often times, that makes sense. There was a lot of times where I would get up from whether I was watching TV or whatever, watching Martin late night. I would get up and go downstairs or go down the hall or whatever to the kitchen, try to get me a little snack. My snacks were never just regular snacks. You know what I mean? Because if I was just grabbing some chips I was probably fine. But
Probably
I'd be
fine,
like, I'm
right?
turning on the oven, that loud beating, beep, dang, it's super loud. It's gonna wake up the whole house. I'm trying to turn the microwave on. I'm heating up chicken strips, all kind of things, right? And so I would come. I remember specifically like quite a few times when we lived in Ontario, and so I would have been in college at this time while I was going downstairs. And I would go downstairs, and then I would look, trying to make sure my dad was upstairs, and then he'd be sitting like on the couch, like on the edge of the couch, in the dark, just sitting. I'm like, what's your issue? Go to sleep. Like, and I wasn't worried about what he was worried about because I was worried about you need to go upstairs so you don't see what I'm eating at 2 o'clock in the morning because I know you're going to say something about it, right? And so I know you're going to be like, Marvin, you don't need that. Go to bed. You know what I mean? And so I would come downstairs and I would creep and I would be like, man, he's still down there. Like, he's still sitting in the same spot he was an hour ago. Like, go to bed. And then as I got older, I knew that he was down there stressing about bills or whatever, right? And 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 so he would be sitting down there, and I'm like, man, like, dude, like, and so that's when I knew we were struggling with different things, like my dad downstairs sitting there, and not to say that he was doing it on his own, because him and my mom were definitely a team. A lot of times he just couldn't escape it, and so sometimes my mom had to go down there and go get him, like Marvin, come to bed, right? And then he would go to bed, but that struggle of like I gotta do this because this weight is on me, and that's so heavy. You know what I mean? And when your identity is that is I'm the provider, man. I have to do this, right? Man. That weight is impossible.
It's heavy, bro.
Man. And now that I'm an adult and I have to provide for my wife and my daughter, and my wife works and everything. But I mean I'm the primary provider. It's like, bro, like I can't screw up at work. You know what I mean? I can't just do what I want to do. Like I gotta provide. And so when funds ain't really meeting to where they're supposed to meet, and it's just like, dang, bro, like first of all, I just had a child. I did not know how expensive they are. You know what I mean? I got a pay increase, and then I added her to my insurance. Pay increase gone, right? And so like I understand that. I now understand that struggle that my dad had. It was just like, bro, like he felt like the weight was on him, and that and me being a Christian, I know that the weight is on God. Like we can give him our burdens. It was a TikTok video of this guy, and he's like, he's talking about like the relationship between Jesus and us, right? And he walks into the room, and like he's the guy that just got saved, and he had all this luggage, like duffel bags and stuff. I don't know if you've seen it. And so the guy sitting in the chair is supposed to be Jesus, right? And he walks in, he says, "Oh, Jesus, I'm glad that we're friends now," or something like that. And then he said, "Oh yeah." He said, "Take this token." It was like a little bag. He said, "And share this with everybody and let them know who I am and our relationship and everything." He said, "Okay, cool." And he set all his bags. When he first came in, he set all his bags down, right? And he's, "All right, man, thanks, Jesus. All right, I'll see you later." And then he grabbed all his bags. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, I'm taking my bags." He was like, "No, you don't have to take those. You can leave those here." And he's like, "Yeah, I know, but I got some things I got to take care of." And so we do the same thing. It's like, I mean, I'm supposed to bring my burdens to the Lord and leave them there, not pray and worry and pray and pick it back up. There's a pastor that talked about, he said, you up at 2:00 in the morning, right? Pacing back and forth about the light bill. Light company closed, the bank closed. You can't do nothing at 2 a.m. Nothing. Right? You know what I mean? And so God, you know what I mean? God states that the scripture talks about, it says that he neither slumbers nor sleeps, right? He's awake already. Why am I up? Yeah. Go to sleep. You know what I mean? And I'm not like poking at my dad or nothing like that, because it was there was that thing where society has like put this on him. Not only put this on him like you're the provider, but put it on him that, oh, black men don't provide for their family and things like that. So now I'm not only trying to line up with this, but I'm also trying to prove things wrong and take care of my family, because if I fall, then who's here? You know what I mean? And so it's like, bro, like I know, knowing and doing are two different things, but I know that I can cast my cares on him and leave them there. But there's so often where I'm like, let me get them bags back, bro. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I can handle it better.
Yeah, I got this. I can carry that bag. That bag not too heavy, guys. I can do that myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I get it. And another thing is, like you were saying, the biggest thing is, one of the big things in the black community is people think, I mean, there is absent fathers in the black community, but the statistic of absent black fathers has gone down tremendously. But I was more, let's be real, the crack era days where they was pumping crack into the black communities. Those absent fathers. I digress. But anyway, people don't understand. There's a sense of responsibility in the black culture. When you have kids or you have a family, not even kids, just a wife, that sense of that sense of being the provider, like that is your identity after that. Like for a lot of black men, that's who I am. And if I can't do that, then who am I? And so, my father was the same way. My father ended up making his mistakes and not being as much in our life because he was trying so hard to be the provider that he didn't realize he was losing his kids, losing his wife, you know what I mean? Like losing that time with us. And it hurt. I feel like it hurt him more than it helped him. And for me, I often go into those places. I know recently me and my wife just struggling. A lot of different things. I'm still in school, so the process of that and then teaching is tough. And just the stress of trying to pass on my classes, I was just, I'm saying all the right things to my wife because I want her to feel like I'm strong, I'm like, trust the Lord, we'll get this done. I'm saying it, but I ain't meaning it. So I'm saying it like, I trust God, I don't know what He's gonna do, God's gonna provide. And but that weight was heavy, yo. It was so heavy. And I didn't realize how heavy it was until my wife said, look at me. And I'm like, I ain't trying to look at you, I'm trying to figure this out. Like, leave me alone, let me get this done. And she was like, listen, I know you will do whatever it takes to provide for this family. You are a great provider. And that stuff made me break down, bro, because it made me realize, like, I'm not in this by myself. But in that moment, I thought I was. Like, I can't be that dude. I can't be that dude who's asking people for help. I just can't. And I said, you got to figure this out. I don't know what you got to do, but you got to grind. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you got to sell, like, if I got to go buy socks for 50 cents, sell on the street for $1, like, I'm going to do this. I got to do what I got to do. Because the idea of not providing for your family is like, it makes you sick almost. Like that idea of like, my kid might not have food. My kid might not even just food. Just my kid might not have what all the other kids have. It's like literally like makes you nauseous. And so that stress of just that, like, man, I need to, like, I'm so tired right now, but I gotta grind. Like that grind was.
Yeah.
So
I remember going back to November this past year when going back to November this past year when after Abigail was born, right? And I'm like, Nicole, none of the stuff went the way it was supposed to go, right?
Right.
And I'm in this process. And before November, like I'm in this process of trying to build our life, right? Myself, right? I never even consulted God, right? And so I'm like, look, I'm about to be 30 and I'm about to have a baby. I need to own this house, right? And so I start that process, right? I'm like, Nicole said it. She was like, you think we should be trying to buy this house? Like in our last trimester, like maybe we should just focus on the baby. I was like, I am focused on the baby. I'm trying to get a baby somewhere to live,
Right.
And so, I'm looking at, the housing, the interest rates are down and stuff because of COVID and all that. And I'm like, look, and everything's going through bidding wars because there was like the whole shortage of houses for sale or whatever. And then the owner of this house was like, look, I won't even list it. I'll just sell it to you. You ain't got to worry about the bid. I was like, this is an opportunity we're not going to get again.
Yeah.
And then again, I kept going back to I'm almost 30. You know what I mean? I don't know where that came from, but it was just like looking at other people's situation. Of like,
right.
They got this before they turned 30. I need to get it before I'm turned 30. This was one of my dad's biggest goals was to own a house. I got to break this generational curse. All this, I got to do this, right? Some of the weights were from society. Some of them were just from me. You know what I mean?
No,
Some of them was just from scrolling through Facebook and seeing what other people got. And so I put all these weights on me, right? Then the baby's coming, right? And so we go through this whole process of trying to buy the house. And then the day of, right? we're getting ready. I'm literally in the parking lot, in the driveway, and getting ready to come in and get Nicole our bags by the door and everything. We're gonna take it. We go up for our schedules, not C-section, but being induced. And then they call me and they're like, "Hey, Marv, everything's good. All we need now is a bank statement showing that you have such and such dollars to close." And I was like, "Whoa, that ain't as much you told me I needed to have to close.
Right?
You told me I needed to have less than half of that, and that's what I got." And he was like, "No, that's not what I told you." So he started making up the stuff. I'm like, "Bro, I have the emails. You told me this is what I need, and now you're telling me that I need this, and I ain't got that. I mean, I got close to that, but I got a baby that's about to be born, and I ain't got that, right?"
Right.
And so then I'm just like, shut it all down. I mean, this is the 4-month process because things were slow because it was an FHA loan. There was like stuff wrong with the house that we had to fix. I had to like paint and stuff. I didn't have to paint, but I told the owner I would do it just to speed the process up because I wanted it done before Abigail was born. My whole goal was she needs to be born into a house that she owns.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, obviously, right? Then we get to the hospital. Things go not south necessarily, but at least east. You know what I mean? With the process of the birth and we try to induce her. I mean, get all the way up to like 10 centimeters dilated, and then Abigail's being disobedient, not coming down the birth canal. And so they're like, "Look, you could either push, but it's possible that she's too big and her shoulder could get dislocated." Talk all this stuff. And I was like, "Nah." She was like, "Yeah, if the shoulder gets dislocated, she can have some disability where she can't move her arm and stuff." I was like, "Nah." She was like, "I recommend a C-section." I said, "Well, let's do it." And I mean, after we talked about it for a few minutes and talked to my mother-in-law and everything, and we prayed, and it was like, because they scared the crap out of me. And then we was like, "Okay, we'll do the C-section," right? And then they come in and scare you about the C-section, right? This is after a whole day's worth of them missing her epidural and missed the dural sac or whatever.
Right. Were you? You went to Newton?
No, we was in Wichita.
I was about to say they did that. They did that.
Yeah,
they did that to my wife.
Yeah, we was at St. Joe. They still screwed us up, and so Nicole's feeling all the pain from this stuff because they missed this dural sac, and so they were injecting the stuff directly. I don't know the medical term, but anyways, where it made the medicine not last as long to keep the pain away. And so, but then when they gave her the dose, it dropped her blood pressure all the way down, right? The alarm's going off. I'm like, whoa, what's going on, right? And they gave her some medicine right then, brought it back up. Then they bring in another dose, like a half a dose this time, and it works a little better, but it's for a shorter time. And so she started feeling pain again. So the guy comes in and is like, "Oh, I'll go up." And he goes back up to the full dose, tanks her blood pressure. Nurse forgot to change the blood pressure cuff to every minute and kept it on every 10 minutes. So for 10 minutes, Nicole's blood pressure is dropping to the floor. And she's looking weird, and I'm looking like, and then it checks her blood pressure, and then her blood pressure is like in the low, like double digits, like 50 something over something, like super low. And I'm like, whoa. Alarm's going off, and now I got like 10 doctors in the room. Nobody know what they're doing because they're all student doctors. And I'm like, "Bro, like, do something, fix my wife." You know what I mean? And so they adjust that. I mean, it takes them like 3 doses of that medicine to bring her blood pressure back up. Now she got an oxygen mask on. So now we like, my eyes is wide open. Like, you know what I mean? I'm praying. I'm like, every single time something happens, I'm like praying to God, like, "Lord, you got to fix this." And he fixes it. Nonetheless, it's still all this stress we experience. So this is, like I said, after the whole not getting the house, you know what I mean? That's over. And so then she has Abigail, does a C-section. Then Abigail's blood sugar is low. We're freaking out about that. It's really low, and they're trying to bring that back up and everything. And then after that, then Nicole started getting these headaches, crazy headaches. No one's helping, right? This is another issue in the community of how they don't really be helping Black mothers when they have children. And
they don't even really know. I mean, not just to be just a side of the doctors. Most of them don't even know how to deal with that. It's different, and they don't even they're not even taught that how a person of color body may react differently. And they'll tell you. It's new to me. My doctor has told me several times, like, "Well, I'm not sure. I know this medicine reacts differently with Black people," and I'm like, "Well, I need you to figure this out for you."
Yeah, legit. Do your homework. But then also they they don't be listening to black women when they in pain. Because I kept telling these people, my wife has a headache. Somebody needs to figure out. She has a really bad headache. She can't even stand up to hold her baby. And this is like 2 days. This is the day after the birth. Like she can't sit up. Every time she sit up, her head starts banging. Nobody's listening. Nobody's listening. I'm told the nurse. I told the doctor. I told several people. Right. Nobody's listening. And so I'm like, dude, like, I'm like, what's up? Like, what's up? Like, somebody needs to come and help my wife. And so then, fast forward, they said, oh, somebody's gonna come in at noon. Noon passed by, 1 o'clock passed by, 2 o'clock passed by, right? And so I call the nurse's station. I'm like, yo, somebody's supposed to come in here to check on my wife. She has this headache, and we don't know what the heck's going on. I'm thinking like something serious is wrong with my wife. She's like crying in pain. I'm like, so now I see tears, and now I'm ready to fight, right? And so I'm like, somebody needs to come here and help my wife. And so, and then she's like, okay, I'll send somebody in there. I said, no, we're beyond that. Somebody needs to come now. What? It doesn't work like that, sir. She started getting choppy with me. I'm like, whoa. I said, first of all, she's like, it doesn't work that way. It's going to take us like 10 minutes. I said, no, someone needs to be in here in less than 2 minutes. Or I'm setting it off, right? And my sister-in-law's trying to calm me down. Like,
I will go to jail.
Yeah, so my sister-in-law's calming me down because there's a doctor in the room at that point, right. But it's not Nicole's doctor, it's Abigail's doctor. And she's like, what's going on? She asked me, she said, I'll go find somebody now. So then now they got 3 different doctors coming in there. I'm like, weird. Where y'all been at for the last 24 hours?
I'm about to tell you that. That's a weird, like, that don't happen. I'm going to say, like, a lot of times they miss things, but I ain't never heard of it. Somebody gonna be in there when they been. That's great. Yeah. I ain't never heard that.
Yeah, and I'm like, bro. And so for the rest of the, I mean, I say all that to say, but for the rest of that time, when I was at the hospital, nurses don't want to make eye contact with me no more, right? I'm just a big bad wolf now. I'm like, whatever, bro. If that's what's gonna make y'all do faster, is me acting like a fool, then I gotta do it. I mean, it's to keep my wife healthy.
As a father, I mean, in that, talk about feeling helpless.
Yeah.
In the process of when your wife is your significant other is giving birth, you feel helpless. You just want to help as much as you can, as even the little bit that you can do. If that's running out getting crushed ice, you trying to get crushed. To be in a situation where you are actually trying to help your wife, to have somebody tell you, nah, kick rocks. Go sit down.
Sit down.
Nah, wait, man. And I would have been in jail. Like, you're a better man than me, because I would have been in jail.
But so we go from that. I'm trying to build up to this point where, and so we get home, right? And I get home, and my host mom calls me, right? From my host parents from college call me, right? And she calls me, and I'm super close with them. And she calls me and tells me that my host father is now on hospice, and I probably should come. I think he was on hospice already. But anyway, she said it don't look like he's going to be here much longer, so you should probably come and say your goodbye. So now all these emotions are stirred up, from the hospital mess to now my situation looking almost identical to my brother's, where he had his child, and then I think 9 days later or less, 7 days later, my dad died. And so, not to say that Doug was my dad, but he stepped in that role after my dad passed, and definitely, I love him. And so I have to, like, I'm leaving Nicole here. My mom and them are on their way to come to come stay with us and help us. And I leave her here, brand new baby, just for a little while, so I can go see Doug before he passed. Then he passes, just a little while after that. And all this stuff is converging. Then I get sick, Nicole's incision opens back up. So then I say all that to say this. Then I get to the doctor, right, to take a COVID test so I can go to the funeral, right? I go to the doctor, to an urgent care place, wherever, and she checks my blood pressure. My blood pressure is through the roof. Not through the roof, because now I've heard of people that had way higher blood pressure than I had, but it was like 160 something over like 105 or something. It was high. And she was like, are you on blood pressure medicine? I was like, no, I don't got no blood pressure issues. And she was like, now my heart's thumping. Like, I'm thinking about my dad's health and how he had blood pressure issues and stuff. I'm like, man, like, what's about to happen to me, right? And so she's like, well, I'm gonna check it again. I'm like, well, I bet you it's high now, because now you just told me it was high. You know what I mean? Now it's through the roof. And so she checks it, and so she's like, she never, and I'm not trying to make her be a bad doctor. I'm not trying to say that. She put me on medicine. Cool. Then I took the medicine. I probably should keep taking medicine, but different story. She put me on the medicine, and then, but she never asked me what was going on in my life.
Mm.
All this stuff has happened in a matter of days. This is like 7 days apart from all this stuff happening. Abigail's born, house falls through, Doug dies. All this stuff is surrounding me, and I'm sick. And I've been taking medicine, decongestant, that brought my blood pressure up too. Mm-hmm. She asked none of that. She just wants to put me on medicine. Never asked my situation. Never asked what I was going through. Never asked my mental health status, like what's going on. Just wants to put me on medicine, and that's like the issue, man. It's like care should be more wraparound care of like. So if I do go seek help, well, I mean, like he said, like how many times do I got to swallow my pride to get help? It's like if I wasn't even going to go get that type of help. I want to go get a COVID test to make sure I didn't have COVID and give it to everybody at the funeral. But if I were to go in there to get help, would she have really even been like, you know what I mean, to recognize it or to see that I probably do need help even though I'm not asking it? You know what I mean? Because you never asked any follow-up questions. You never asked, okay, you're 29. Why is your blood pressure this high? Yeah, I'm a big dude. But come on, man. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? You never asked.
But you black, so that.
Yeah, that's your diet. You've been eating fried chicken this week or whatever. It's like, no, I haven't. I mean, I don't eat great, but I eat all right. But you never sought that out. And that comes from the communities and societies downpour on who black people are. And that's just their diet, and that's why because of the way they live, and that's why they have health issues. Like, no, like there's something going on behind all this. And like you were talking about before, like suffering in silence. Like, am I really, like, I don't know. Should I go and seek and help? Or are you going to tell me something else is wrong with me when I'm telling you maybe I'm depressed? You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe I'm just having a hard time. Yeah, maybe I have anxiety. Whatever that is, whatever those different things are that I could be going through. And society don't care, it seems like. And that's the issue. It's like, just give them some medicine.
Low key, I did have a good doctor. It wasn't even a doctor, it was a nurse, who said I was having high blood pressure problems. And she goes, you know what, it don't even sound like you're having blood pressure problems. And I ain't going front. She's like, sounds like you have an anxiety attacks. And I swear I said to her, I don't have it.
Anxiety about what?
Like,
I can't afford it.
I do. I'm always in a good mood. She's like, well, I've experienced, and she was telling me all the side effects of having anxiety and depression. And I was like, you understand? That can't happen to me. Like I'm too strong for that, mentally too strong for that. And I didn't want to take what she was saying because it was like, I mean, I still don't take anxiety medicine because I was so prideful. Like, she was like, let's get you on some anxiety medicine. I was like, nah, you understand? That ain't me. Like, I'm not even, I'm not even, and so like, if I had somebody who could have been in my life, who would have said something like, Pat, you understand, this is, what you're going through right now is tough, so don't be afraid. Yeah, and like, even if it wasn't taking medicine, but just having somebody to talk to, like, I mean, my life now is stressful, but in that moment, I was getting married, newly married. I was working 2 jobs, picked up
at least 4, 5.
Yeah, I had 5, but I had just picked up. I had picked up 2. I had 2, picked up a 3rd, and I still wasn't making enough money. So I was like, bruh, what I'm gonna do? Because there's only so much time in the day. Like, I was literally at that point in my life, I got to a point where I was working every day of the week, at least 7 hours.
Yeah.
And I was just like, in my head, I was like, I'm about to get married. It is my responsibility to take care of this woman, not just for like her, but so her father and her family knows that they can trust me. So I'm trying to put it, and the stress of that was overwhelmed. Like, God knows my heart; He knows who I am. But the stress of that was overwhelming because I feel like I had to prove that to everybody else. And if I'm being honest, her family and her specifically, big reason why we're married, was like, you ain't gotta do this by yourself. Like, we're here to help. I wasn't trying to hear it though. And they didn't. I mean, they didn't say it. They didn't say it to me, they did a lot with their actions, and now I'm in a situation where I don't have to put myself through that amount of stress because I know they're there for me. But if I didn't have those people in my life, I probably would have, because I was pushing help away at the same time, taking on all that stress and not giving it to God or doing anything. It was just like I was just trying to take it and be like, oh man, that's me.
And
I got this.
And I think, I mean, not to cut you off, but I think that that's the key is like realizing that taking help, first of all, it's not, it doesn't diminish who you are. And I think that that becomes the identity. It's more of an identity issue than anything. Of where do you find your identity at? Because if, like you said in the beginning, like if I go ask for help, then that's telling you that I don't know how to do my job. Right. So where do we find our identity at? Whether, who cares what society's saying? Who cares what family has said or history has said? Like for me, I have to keep telling myself my identity is in Christ. Right. And so one of the prayers I've been praying like so often, right? Not to sound super preachy, but I mean, hey, I'm a Christian. Like I said, I'm black and I'm a Christian, so this is where I'm coming from. And so, is Lord, help me to see you again as my source for everything, because somewhere along the way, I've stopped seeing you as my source. Somewhere along the way, I've seen me as the source, and when I'm the source, bro, I'm depleted. Right? You know what I mean? Like he says, where Paul says, like 3 times I sought the Lord, like Lord, take this from me, right? And then the Lord responds, not, oh, let me take this away from you. He responds and says, my grace is sufficient, for my strength is made perfect in your weakness. And so when I'm weak, like it's like a phone. It's like when your phone's on the charger right now, right? If it's not on the charger and I refuse to acknowledge the fact that my phone is blinking in the corner and it's about to die, it's going to die. But until I plug into the source and plug into the actual, energy, if I pay my electric bill, right, it's going to charge that phone back up. And so we have to like come to this place of realizing our identity is in Christ. Especially, I won't say especially as black men, but we're talking about black men in this episode. And so seeing our identity in Christ and not in basketball or not in being the provider or anything like that. Like my sole identity is in Christ, and he's responsible for providing for me.
And that's big. That's big, not just like, that's big for everybody. Honestly, it's knowing that your identity is in Christ, but in particular, those people who are, like a Michael Beasley situation where everybody you love or the people who are naturally supposed to be responsible for you or help you aren't helping you, knowing that you have Christ can get you through those moments and leave you with sanity. Just because he's enough,
Sufficient.
And people will always fail you, even if they mean well, but he never will. So that's why I think, touching on what you were saying, is big, knowing who you are through Christ.
Yeah, and so it teaches you that if I can't provide, if I do not make enough to pay that bill, it doesn't change the fact that my identity is in Christ. Right. It may affect my skewed view if I see myself as a provider. Now I failed, and now I'm broken. But if my identity is in Christ, it's not shaking anymore. Now it's on a firm foundation. Like he's still on the throne, no matter what. Like if
my mom said it all the time.
Yeah, like if I get evicted or I lose my job or things go wrong just in my relationships or whatever, like he's still on the throne. And so now I have my identity is in a solid place rather than on me, because like you said, humans gonna fail me. Or if my identity's in basketball, your knees are gonna eventually stop letting you jump. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so or whatever it is, because a lot of people have this issue where when they retire from their work. Going from pro athlete to a doctor or something, when they can't do it, they struggle with retirement because like, well, I'm a doctor, right? I'll end my piece with this, but because we are approaching an hour, we long winded. But I was watching a podcast with Kev on stage, not podcast. He was interviewing Kirk Franklin, and Kirk Franklin was talking about. I think he was quoting, I forget who he was quoting. He was quoting somebody. But he said a lot of times we stop being human beings and start being human doings. And we find our identity in the things that we do rather than who we are. And so
some people need to hear that.
Man, yeah. And when I heard, I was like, dang,
Yeah,
am I a human doing? Because I identify myself as the things that I do all the time. I'm a missionary, I'm this, I'm that. Like, no. Like, you're a human being. You know what I mean? And a fallible one at that. Like, I'm a flawed human being. And my righteousness is in Christ. You know what I mean? He says that your righteousness is filthy rags, right? And so my righteousness is in him. He is my righteousness. I put on him. And so therefore my identity is in him, and it can't be shaken or taken by the community or society or anything like that, because it's firm and solid on that foundation.
And just to close, for me, a lot of what you said, I don't know if I can echo that sentiment exactly, but for me, it's like my mom used to say, she says all the time, and I used to, she still says, no one's my provider but God. Because I used to say, man, I want to take care of you. Like, I want to get to a point where I'm working a job and I'm making enough money to pay for your living and my living. And she goes, nobody's my provider but God. And she said that to me, and I hear it, but it doesn't stick. So you're in that moment where you kind of feel lost, and you just gotta trust God in your next move, and you gotta know that what's the scripture says that He cares even for the birds in the sky.
Oh yeah, Matthew 6.
So He cares. He even cares for the animals of this earth. He takes care of them. Why wouldn't He take care of you? And so just knowing that God is, as for me, I'm so ingrained, not just with my father, but just everything. I need to be the provider. But giving that to God, nobody's the provider for my family but God, right? I'm the spiritual leader in my family. I need to bring my family closer to Christ. But nobody's the provider but God. He provides for us. And so putting that on Him and humbling myself to give Him that, I think, is part of the growth.
That's a huge thing. Humbling yourself and getting out of the way. It's like, but at a certain point, you're in this way. I'm long-winded. I probably shouldn't even say. But anyway, in business school, I learned that there was a law, like a business law or something called the law of diminishing returns, if I remember correct. I may be wrong. I may be completely wrong. We can edit this part out. But there's the law of diminishing returns where it says, like, so if there's a assembly line, right, and there's two people on the assembly line, and those two people at the end of the day have produced 20 iPhones, right? Cool, right? So then you're like, well, you know what? If I throw another person on this line, right, I can get more, right? So then you throw another person on the line, and then they produce 30. So now each person is producing about 10, right? So then you're like, you know what? I need more iPhones. So you throw a fourth person on the line, and then they produce 35. And you're like, what the heck? They should be producing 40, right? So then you throw a fifth person on the line, and now they're producing 30 again. All right? And so it says at a certain point, you put too many people on the job, you start diminishing your returns, right? And you start losing productivity, whether it's lack of space, lack of tools, or whatever it is, you start, right? And so at a certain point,
that makes sense.
Right? And so if it's God's job to provide, right, and then I'm trying to provide, at a certain point, we get in each other's way. And so it's like, get out of His way, let Him do what He's God. He's Jehovah Jireh. He's the provider, not me. I'm not Jehovah. I'm not Marvin Jireh. You know what I mean? I'm not the provider. He's the provider. And so we get out of His way. Yes, He gives us skills and talents and things to do, to provide and everything like that. But it's His job to provide. It's His job to heal. It's His job. So at a certain point, I'm in His way, and I'm bringing down the productivity of what He can do because I'm constantly in His way. You know what I mean? And so I think that goes back to, it's all about, we're talking about mental health and just from a different perspective. And I'm not saying that the solution is solely in the church, because we think that a lot. Black people, talk to somebody. Like, talk to somebody.
Right.
Talk to somebody. Have somebody you can go to that's not going to share all your business, right? And tell them, like, yo, like, I mean, somebody you can be sincere with, like, yo, I'm struggling. I don't know how to do this. You know what I mean? Yeah, it can be God. You can talk to God too, but also talk to a person. I mean, have somebody you can call and be like, bro, like, I mean, it ain't look not somebody necessarily that you're like, oh, they're gonna give me money if I go tell them this, but just somebody where it's just like, bro, like I'm struggling. Somebody's just gonna listen and not come back with a solution like we always do. Like, oh, come to the house and play with the kids.
Yeah.
Like they talk about. I'm not talking about them in a negative way, but to have somebody you can talk to that's really gonna sincerely just listen and let you get it all out. Right. So that you can get it out of your head, because in your head it sounds. I mean, it seems like about, and if you get it out, it may be a speed bump. So,
all right, guys.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna try to cut it. We're gonna wrap it up for that one today.
Yeah,
we're getting a little windy. We want to try to keep these a lot shorter.
We'll get shorter and shorter.
But, you know, it's a work in progress.
Maybe it just, maybe it just be an hour and a half. No, I won't do that. But I think we had like an hour and 5 minutes after we edited. It'd probably be like an hour each.
Yeah.
But I mean, we just talk, like I said, we talk about things from our perspective. And like I said, I mean, the best conversations happen when everybody leaves and all the to-go plates are gone and it's just a few people left cleaning up or whatever.
Yeah. And it's big to us. This call after the cookout, because like you said, it's a conversation after the cookout. But it's big to us that we hear from you guys. We need feedback. We want responses. We want to hear what you feel about the topics as well, so we can listen to y'all. And we hope that y'all come and join us and listen to us.
Yeah, and if you got, like you said, topics, if you got ideas for topics, put them in the comments below, and or you can email us at afterthecookout@gmail.com. We got email. We're actually official. All right, man. We appreciate you guys. Love y'all.
Love you.